Ladies and gentlemen, we are on time, on topic, on target, so let's get straight into our first speaker this morning. Sue Hawes has worked as a nurse for over 30 years. She started her nursing career when there were 3 nursing registers and specialised in working with children and young people with physical and intellectual disabilities. Today, Sue works as a consultant and has been a director in PwC's National Health Practice. Sue considers being a nurse to be a privilege, and it gives her permission to interact with people when they are at their most vulnerable. We couldn't do without her and all of you in the room, so let's hear from Sue right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sue Hawes. Good morning, Sue.
Morning.
And you're matching the banners and everything. Fantastic.
I wore the uniform. So yeah, I thought I'd better let everybody know I don't actually work for ACN, but that's the level of my commitment is my colour match this morning. So I wanted to start with, I guess, a little story. So 1980, I was 18 years old and had just finished school. And I didn't do terribly well at school, probably because everyone kept telling me I was pretty stupid. But that didn't stop me. And I can remember wondering, what on earth am I going to do as a grown-up with my life? And at the time, my parents had a very good friend that happened to be going for an interview at this place called Marsden Hospital. And she said to me, why don't you ring them and see if you can get an interview too? And I thought, why not? So off I twaddled, went for the interview, a bit naive really, I think, and I can remember leaving thinking, I wonder if I've got a job or not. And then I thought, well, I must have, because I have to come back next week for a uniform fitting. So yeah, I think I've got a job. So there started, I guess, my journey in nursing, coincidentally. So here I am, 53 years old, and 35 years later, having had the most amazing experiences and continue to be committed and work in the profession. And I guess I stand before you to say that I love being a nurse. So I'm exceptionally proud to be standing before you. I can remember when I got the call about 6 months ago and thought, wow, me? They want me to be a keynote speaker. And then I also had this moment of enormous fear when I realised what I'd actually committed to. And I kind of went away and did some reflecting and had some conversations with some of my very good colleagues and kind of wondered, what would people want to hear from me? What would it be that would make people interested and want to listen to what it is that I have to say and have to share? So I spent a fair bit of time thinking about that and I guess scripting what it was that I wanted to talk to you about today. But I guess the other thing that you probably need to know is that I have not stood like this in front of a big audience ever before. And it is about, I think, leadership is very much around our ability and willingness to take risks. So here I am taking a very big risk in front of you today. Thank you. So maybe a nice place to start is to probably share with you, I guess, some of my thoughts about leadership. And I draw on, I guess, my experiences of 35 years working across multiple different roles and different systems and different kinds of opportunities that I have had. So I certainly think that leadership is about the ability to engage people to enable change. Our ability to engage people to enable change. And I think that that is not about the role you have or the title that's bestowed upon you, where you sit in the organisation. I believe that leadership ability and capability sits within each and every one of us. It is absolutely about the choices that we make. I think that our experiences, whether that be our life experiences or our professional experiences, actually contribute to that. And they can be our experiences that are our successes, but also when we experience adversity. I think that great leadership depends on how we express and assert leadership behaviours. And I think how we lead is reflected in the choices that we make. I wanted to share two leadership stories with you this morning, and I guess they're two very different leadership stories. So the first one is when I had the opportunity to work in a role where I was leading a very large project, and I had the opportunity to go and workshop with many frontline nursing and midwifery unit managers across a state. And I can remember this one particular workshop where I was expecting about 30 participants. The room was all set up, they all came in, and very quickly I realised that it was going to be a tough workshop because people, these frontline managers turned up, they pretty much grunted at each other, gave very little eye contact, certainly didn't interact or engage with me in any way, shape or form, grabbed themselves a coffee, sat down, pretty much with their arms folded. So they set a really interesting tone in that room. It was really interesting. I've got lots of bags of tricks in terms of facilitating and trying to get people on board and some buy-in, but none of that worked. None of that worked. They were pretty much disengaged. I guess what was interesting for me in that interaction was my response, the impact that had on me and my response to that. I found myself actually totally disconnecting. I actually kind of went to this place where I thought, I don't really care. I had a job to do and I absolutely did that job. But in terms of any kind of emotional investment from me, it was gone. It was gone. I reflect back on that and wondered about who was their leader? What was their leader modelling? What was the tone that leader was setting that allowed those people to think that the way in which they interacted with each other and with me was actually okay? I also wondered, what about their teams? The teams that they get to work with. I wondered about their impact on their teams. And most importantly, I wonder what happened to patient care and how they interacted with patients and the impact that the care had on patients. So again, choices that those people made as leaders in the way in which they used their experience and demonstrated their leadership behaviours and the impact that had. My other story is very different. It is one that is very personal to me. It is actually a story about when I had my very first child, my daughter Natalie, who is now 28 years old. And I can remember when she was born, she was born with lots of medical problems. We weren't quite sure if she was going to live or not. But I can remember the kindness and the compassion and the way in which I was cared for. I remember that I was put in the antenatal ward so I wouldn't have to listen to newborn babies crying. I can remember that they allowed me to have a fold-up bed next to me and anybody could stay, so I was never ever alone. I can remember that Natalie needed to be transferred to a tertiary facility the next day. And one of the lovely nurses organised for her local parish priest to come and have her baptised before she went. And another nurse got a bottle and a nappy so I could actually exchange and interact with my child before she was transferred. And again, I reflect on that and think about those individual nurses and the choices that they made and the way in which they cared for me. I wonder about their leader and what that leader modelled for those individuals to give them permission to behave in such a way. The impact was so profound that I can still remember 28 years later what that felt like. I've had the opportunity to work with some amazing people in my career. And I wonder sometimes about our profession that we sometimes default to the things that we don't like or the people that we don't like, and how often do we spend time actually celebrating and acknowledging our heroes and our idols. And given that I have the stage and the microphone and the lights, I decided that I was going to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the leaders that have made choices about who they are and the way in which they interact, and I will be forever grateful for the impact that you have had on me and what you have modelled for me that I can take away and learn. Okay, so into the future. So what are we going to do about this thing called advancing nursing leadership? Change is easy, isn't it? It's really easy. Don't you think? No, you laugh. Okay, where's Scott? How am I going for time? Awesome. Okay, what I would like you to do is stand up where you are, and I want you to find a partner. So I promise you won't have to touch anybody or nothing scary. Okay? So just you need to have a pair, essentially. Find a partner. Okay. You got to listen. I want you to face your partner, and I want you to use your really good observational skills as nurses. So just spend 10 seconds eyeballing your partner. Have a good look. Okay, you got to listen. Now I want you to turn back to back. Back to back. Okay. Now I want you to change one thing about your appearance. One thing. Change one thing. Quickly. One thing. Turn around, see if you can identify it. Okay. Very good. Next one. Haven't finished. Haven't finished. Turn around again. Turn around again. This time I want you to change 3 things about your appearance. 3 things. Oh, already heard it. Oh, 3 things. Quick, quick. Okay, turn back around, see if you can identify them. Okay, one more time. Turn around, turn around. 2 more things, change 2 more things. Oh, serious? 2 more things, quick, quick. And nobody strip, please. Two more things. Rightio, turn around. All right, now listen. What I want you to do is sit as you are, please. So please take a seat and sit as you are. So how did that feel? All right, easy? Hectic? What else? Hard? Why was it hard? Trying to concentrate? Trying to think of what to change? I heard somebody going, oh, more. But it's interesting because we have lots of resources around us, but we often get asked to do, more with less. You still had lots of things that you could change. What else? What else was feeling? Fun? Oh, see, there we've got the change champion. He likes to have fun. You're on my team. Rushed, yeah. And doesn't that happen when we often have to implement change? It's about come on, get a move on. So interestingly, I can see people putting their lanyards back on, their watches back on the other hand, their earrings back in. What's really interesting around change is that we naturally default back to the behaviour and the position that we know and we are most comfortable with. I deliberately said, sit as you are. And what did you all do? Then listen. So I want you to remember that experience the next time you embark on a change, whether it's something small or large, that you ask your teams to do and wonder why they keep going back to their old ways, because it's not as simple as just throw out some instructions. You know, you had no idea where we were going with that. I didn't really set you up terribly well. So thinking about those kinds of things, okay? So, I tend to always chunk things into three. So you won't be surprised to, when I talk about the future, that I've actually got a three-step plan. Oh no, I haven't. I've got ahead of myself. So before we do that, I've got some critical questions that I wanted to, I guess, explore with you around the future. Do we want to keep doing the same as what we're doing now? So you've got the answer to that one. Really easy. And are we satisfied with what we have? Awesome. So we've got getting a really good case for change. What is our potential? It's huge. It's huge. And we have to figure that out. What will great leadership look like, nursing leadership look like? Again, we need to be able to describe that. And we need to own that, not let somebody else do it for us. And what impact do we hope to have? I think we need to be really clear, because it's not just about doing it to satisfy ourselves. We need to be really clear around the impact that we're having for the people around us. So now we get to the three-step plan. I better go back to my screen so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, so for me, it's always about chunks of three. So I think there are three critical kinds of things that we can do to actually impact and advance nursing leadership. I think that we need to determine what it is and why we do it. Has anybody heard of Simon Sinek and the Golden Circle? Awesome. It is a really simple framework, and I think we've still got a little bit of time. Do we want to click to this clip? He explains it way better than I do.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief?
So I think for us, one of our big challenges is to get greater clarity around what we do and have a unified voice around that. Be clear and script the how we do that, and that is the stuff that actually makes us different from everybody else. Because there are things that we do as nurses that nobody else does. And we need to be able to articulate that. And then we need to find our why. Imagine if there were no nurses in the world. What would that look like? I think the other thing for us is that there's a sense of urgency and business-like construct that we need to get around our frame of thinking. And we need to be able to qualify and quantify the economic value of the care that we deliver. I do believe that that is one of our challenges into the future, because as dollars become less, the last thing we want is for people to start to rationalise nursing work and nursing care because we're unable to be able to quantify that value. The second step for me is around taking responsibility. And I guess I've kind of got 5 things in here. I think we need to stop talking about our problems. We've done it long enough. And I think we have great ideas about how to solve those problems, but for me it's about taking the next step, and it's actually scripting those ideas into really robust solutions so that people understand what's changing and how we're going to get there. So it's almost a step-by-step breakdown, that we articulate the benefits in making that change, we identify the risks of changing and also the risks of not changing. And the other thing that we're very clear about is what are the measures that tell us that change has occurred. I think one of our challenges into the future is the research practice gap. It feels, and I may be challenged by the academics in the room, but it feels to me that the gap has gotten bigger and bigger. There is definitely need and there is importance in research and relevance to our profession and giving us integrity and a robustness around what we do. But there is also awesome innovation and creation that is happening at the coalface. And we either need to bring the gap, make the gap smaller, or find something that is in between. I think also as leaders, we need to be having much more critical conversations. And when I talk about critical conversations, they are discussions about getting around the table and being okay that we may not always have the same opinion, but let's have the dialogue. We've stopped doing that. And that makes me really nervous because it doesn't allow us to explore and understand different perspectives that we may not have considered. We're all professionals, we're all adults, and it's okay to have some really robust conversations about those kinds of things. I think the other thing for me around critical conversations is being really clear about where is the line. Where is the line of the behaviour and the attitudes that we will tolerate amongst our profession. I think we need to be very clear around what that looks like and what it is that we will and will not tolerate, and have those conversations. I think that the voice of consumers, patients, clients into the future will be a force to reckon with. I think that our patients have not yet discovered their potential to actually influence and change the system. And I think our time is right for the picking in terms of thinking about how do we get ahead of the game so that we're not necessarily working alongside patients, but, you know, we often talk about ourselves being patient advocates. Well, let's get patients being our advocates. And now is the time to think about what is the plan that we need to put in place to make that happen. Respect yourself and respect each other. I think that we need to take responsibility for our own growth and development and stop expecting handouts. I think that when you start to put your hand out and have expectations, you are giving permission for other people to determine your destiny. You are in charge of your own destiny. As a profession, we need to take charge and take responsibility for our own destiny. I think the other thing around respecting each other is about potentially disrupting some of our traditions and making it okay for people to actually step away from the roles that they might have, step away and say, I'm tired, I can't do that anymore, but I can offer something else. And I think we need to respect and actually celebrate that and think about how do we make that a culture that is okay to do that. And then the last thing I think is about telling our story. I think it's really important that we figure out what it is that we do. We tell a modern story, not one from a country practice with Georgie Parker being the Nurse of the Year. That's back in my era. I think we need to tell a story that is one voice. You know, what is our tagline? It should be on all our signatures, on all our tweets, on all our LinkedIn profiles, on all our Facebooks. What is our tagline as a nurse? I've got a new little avatar that I'm going to use. I think social media, again, we have the opportunity to utterly disrupt. You know, if you think about the health workforce in Melbourne at the kids' hospital that said, we're not sending any kids back to detention. Awesome. Awesome. You know, where is our platform? Where is our voice? That is our why. That becomes part of our why. And then we have a really powerful message. And obviously research as well, because that is the thing that will give us integrity. Absolutely. Okay, so in the end, wrapping up, where we have come from will not take us to where we need to go. I think that we need to think about, let me have a look at my little piece of paper. I think we need to think about our expertise and how we use that differently, how we seek the opportunities and do something different with those. We take some risks. You've all were given a card when you came in. I encourage you to share your great leadership ideas, and I will take ownership and responsibility of doing something with that information. So I welcome you to do that as part of this. We need to work out our why. We need to come up with a plan. As leaders, we set the tone and we make choices about the behaviour, but also we need to think about how we impact. And then we can think about how we become the heroes and idols of the healthcare system. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sue Hawes. Thank you, Sue. You're my heroes. My nurses are my heroes. In every hospital experience I've ever had, it's been the nurses that have been absolutely wonderful, no matter what age I was. Sue, we have Pigeonhole happening here, and thank you to all those who participated. We have a couple of questions, so we might just direct the first one to you while we've got a couple of minutes up our sleeve. The first one, which was voted on by quite a number of people, said...
It's not hard.
How can we advance nurse leadership when the leader of the unit is the one that is preventing change? The floor is yours.
I guess for me that is the critical conversation. That is about how you respect yourself and how we respect each other. And we get really brave and we sit and we share. And you know, there's a whole lot of things for me that connect up to that about how do we make it okay for our profession to say, I don't want to be the leader of the unit anymore. I'm tired, or I actually want to do something else because I think I've done all that I can here. It's not necessarily about being tired. I think that it absolutely has to be about a critical conversation, but you need to go in with a plan and not attack. It has to be respectful, professional, and you need to think about what is your intent and being really clear about that. Because maybe that person is just overwhelmed. If it's about capability, then that's a different kind of conversation. But, rather than batting against it, how do you get up close and actually interact in a different kind of way?
We've just had one question jump from third position to second position, so we'll take it. And that is, how can we inspire student nurses and midwives to aspire and work towards leadership?
For the risk of being controversial.
We're all family.
I think we need to build a bridge and get over ourselves and actually stop thinking that students need to hang around for 10 years before they can fulfil any kind of leadership capability or responsibility. I know that in every single place that I have worked, you can see from the new novice, even people who come on student placements, the leaders are there. They are amazing. They shine. And it is about us who are the older generation, about getting over ourselves, understanding what is the drive for Gen X and Gen Y, and getting a little bit more savvy about how we interact and giving people opportunities that is within a construct that is supportive and nurturing, and allowing sometimes, you do stuff up. But that can often be where your greatest learning comes from. I know I have made mistakes in my career, but they are the things where I have learnt the greatest lessons. So I think we need to just get over ourselves and give these guys an opportunity. Them.
Finally, can you share with us who your mentors were as you came through the...
Well, I think that list on that little skirt of my my superhero, most certainly I've had, and I did think quite carefully about who were the people that actually impacted me. And some of those people I still have the opportunity to interact with, and I am forever grateful, because they are the kinds of people that I can ring up and say, I've got this problem, or my ego's on fire. I need somebody to bring me back to reality. And I trust those people implicitly to be able to challenge me, to think critically, but also keep me grounded in reality, but also care about me.
One last question. We do have a couple of minutes left.
Really?
With this, actually two questions, so we're combining it into one here. It's just about horizontal violence within our workplace. How do you think leadership can advance when there is horizontal violence? Now, excuse me, I've not heard horizontal violence. It must be an internal thing, but horizontal violence, what is horizontal violence for me? And then the answer for everybody else.
And that's a really good question. I think we need to be really careful around words that we use in our everyday language. Horizontal violence, bullying, busy. I'm busy. I think we need to... What was the question again about horizontal violence in the workplace?
Yes. Do you think there's a way to engage, when we have horizontal violence in the market?
Well, I think we need to call the line. One, we need to be clear about what it is that we are actually talking about, and is it that or is it something else? And then call it for what it is. But I think as leaders, we have a responsibility to be informed around what it is, your rights, your responsibilities, and the person and the people that you're interacting with in terms of rights and responsibilities. And again, critical conversations. Sometimes it is that people actually don't understand. I would suggest that 99.9% of people are actually come to work to do a really good job and are really compassionate and committed. It's the little thing over there, but what you want to do is stop the ripple before that turns into something bigger and bigger. And the only way to do that is to step up. If you want to be a leader, then you have to step up, and you have to see it for what it is, but be informed. Be informed, don't be reckless.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sue Hawes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.